My name is Darrell Abraham, and I was Antonio in the play. My favorite part of the production process must have been working with close friends, because it's much more fun when you're setting up something really big and working on it for a long time to do it with friends. But also then it was to get to know new people, because in our drama class I'm close to a lot of people, but not everyone. So it was good to get closer with them, because we all had to work together kind of fluidly on stage. So we were forced to come closer together, and that was fun. Well, that was hard. I didn't learn all my lines until like the very end, about like the last weekend before the production, and that's because, well, I had a lot of lines, and what I did mostly was just continuously repeat them in my head, or like during class I'd kind of go through the lines, and it kind of that's all I actually did. Also, before going to sleep, I'd do it twice. I'd go through the play twice, only my lines, or while I'm brushing my teeth, I would think about it. There's just different places where I'd try and go through my lines, and usually I had the script on my phone, so it was easy to pull out the script when I forgot a line anywhere on my way home or whatever, and just get to it. Yeah, well, because my character was kind of easier for me than for others, because my character was a 13-year-old boy, and I clearly remember how I was being 13 years old. I'm not that much different. That's just 3 years ago. Whereas for other people, they were like grandmas or whatever. So for me, I think it was easier to connect with Antonio and kind of grow into him, and able to develop him myself and kind of my idea of how a 13-year-old boy would be. Well, other characters were kind of essential to my performance. Mostly with that, I was on stage a lot, and every time I was on stage, there was another character on stage with me, and it really did help that a lot of the other people that I was acting with were really good in their roles, and it kind of gave me like a boost to myself be better and kind of act out more my lines. And I would kind of also to understand the mood or the tone of a scene. It was much easier because when there's a lot of people on stage and everyone kind of reflects the same mood, it is easier to get into that mood. Also, well, for me it was kind of essential because a lot of my lines are dependent on other characters and their actions or the words they say. So I was heavily leaning on a lot of people to help me throughout the play. Well, that was kind of interesting because the Vespa didn't work once, I think, and for another time it took a really long time for it to start. So actually what happened was that I was on stage, and the bombs were meant to go off. They were meant to go off all around me, and then I would have to kind of cower and cry about it and to scream out to Chris and ask for call out to him. And what I did was just like during the first time when it took really long for the Vespa to get on stage, what I did was I just like put my hands in my face in my hands, and kind of like cower to all the sounds that were going on around me. And it was kind of easier for me because I realized that from then onwards, I realized that the audience actually isn't really paying much attention to me, because as soon as the beast would leave, you would hear the Vespa go off. So they knew that something was going on, and they were anticipating a Vespa. So it was easier for me to stand in the middle of the stage and roll into a ball and cry, because I knew that they're not expecting anything of me. So, but then the time that the Vespa didn't work was the longest time I was on stage for that, and I didn't have any lines to say apart from screaming out to Chris. But I believe because of that reason, it was okay. It felt like hours on stage, but it was fine, because in the end, Chris was able to run up and call for me, and we just ran off stage. It did kind of mess me up for the next scene, because for me it's like a lot of it was muscle memory, like learning the lines. So what I would remember is that we'd go off on the Vespa, and then we'd come back in, and then I know exactly what scene we're in. But then in that particular show, the next scene I messed up, and I accidentally skipped a scene, and we had to try and improvise through that. So that kind of messed me up. But apart from that, it was okay. Most challenging part of the play was probably like, I don't know how much effort I had to put into it, because I was the main character. So like I was learning a lot of lines, and I was on stage for the whole play apart from one scene, I think. So learning all my lines and understanding what to do in each scene, even when I'm not speaking, was probably really challenging for me. And the thing is that it was my first production ever, so I was kind of like, I was new to the whole environment of the backstage and on stage, and it was unfamiliar to me, but I really enjoyed it. Well, I would, because there's a lot of things to improve. And one example would be that I could improve my onstage presence. I feel at times I was kind of overshadowed by other characters, and I felt like as the main character, I should be on that level as well. Another thing I could improve was like improvising. So there was an example of where I did that when Alessandro Bardini came on stage as Morelli, and he said that he repeated the same line twice, and it took me a while to understand what was happening and to improvise, and there's other scenes, small scenes like that, which I could improve in, and be able to talk my way through it and act as if it were, real life. I would also improve. There's one thing that I would cut out of it. That would be the wardrobe change on stage. So there's one scene where at the very beginning of the play where I'd go on stage and I'd change, and the scene I felt was not long enough for me to actually change. But then so what would happen is I would go on, and Mama Nina would start talking, and I would have to change really quickly, and then she'd call me to the dinner table, and then we'd have to eat. And every single production that we did, I was not done changing, so that it would, like, my shirt would be half tucked in and not fully buttoned up. But I guess it was kind of covered up because we were going to sleep anyway, and I didn't really have to get ready for anything. And another thing I would improve is my romance kind of scene with Natasha as Simonetta, because I felt like a lot of the times when when we were meant to have intimate moments, I was kind of awkward. It was slightly disguised by the fact that I was a 13-year-old boy and I was kind of unfamiliar with the situation. But I felt like it was a bit too awkward, or my body movement when I wasn't talking, even in that situation or in other situations, was also kind of awkward, because since it was my first production, I was unsure of how to act on stage when I wasn't talking. Because I'd familiarized myself too much with my movements while I was talking, and I didn't really think of doing anything while I was not talking. So that was another thing that I would definitely improve